Welcome to the Lit Show. We are here to serve and uplift women from every background by empowering change spiritually, physically, mentally, and socially.
We hold to the belief that if you are willing to strengthen your spiritual life, then your physical, mental, and social strength will follow.
I'm Janie.
And I'm Britt.
And we are lit. All right.
Okay.
We're doing it on
the hardest
grief.
One.
Yes.
All of them.
Grief. Navigating grief with God's guidance. What is grief? Grief is a profound and complex emotional response to loss, particularly the loss of someone or something significant in one's life. A range of feelings and reactions that can affect a person emotionally, physically, and their well-being. Here are some key aspects of grief. Emotional reaction: sadness, anger, guilt, confusion. Physical reactions: fatigue, appetite change, physical symptoms, and there's also denial, depression, numbness, anxiety. Stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. And then did you want to read the coping with grief?
Grief is a personal experience and people cope with it in different ways. Coping strategies may include seeking support from friends, family, or a therapist, engaging in self-care, finding ways to memorialize or honor the lost person or thing, and gradually finding ways to adapt to life without the loss. Understanding grief as a natural and individual process can help individuals navigate their feelings and seek the support they need to heal.
All right. I'm going to read one of my stories. I have a few of them. So how many did you have?
I just have one. It's short and sweet and to the point.
I have 3 that are short, but I'll try to get through them. Okay. Going through a divorce in my early 20s was one of the most challenging experiences of my life. The end of my marriage brought deep grief, a sense of loss and uncertainty about the future. I felt overwhelmed by sadness, anger, and guilt, especially over the impact it had on our families and whether I had done enough to save the relationship. During this time, my faith became my anchor. My mom took me to a Christian divorce Bible study class where I found comfort and support. Psalms 34:18, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit, reminded me that I wasn't alone in my suffering. The group provided a safe space to share my feelings without judgment, and prayer became a way to release my fears and find peace. As I leaned into my faith, I began to see the divorce not as a failure, but as an opportunity for growth. Gradually, my anger and guilt gave way to acceptance and hope. My mom reminded me that God's love is unconditional and that His grace is sufficient, even in our struggles. Over time, my faith helped me rebuild my life with a renewed sense of purpose. I learned that grief and faith could coexist, and through this journey, I found strength, resilience, and a deepening trust in God's plan for my life. Do you want to go ahead and read one of yours?
Yes. Grieving can come from losing someone here on earth still with us, and grief can also happen when someone has passed on. The hardest thing about grieving for me comes deeply from the person I am continually every day and still today am letting go of. As my body, mind, and spirit becomes renewed, I am constantly learning and growing in my faith, which at times can be sometimes scary when looking backwards into my past. I can not only speak on losing myself or who I thought I was supposed to be for others besides God, but I can also speak on losing loved ones in the process of losing myself. I can sit and imagine the old times when I would laugh with others, cry with others, love others, and still then did not really know Jesus. The grief of what I had become was so lost, but I still can see where God was truly with me. He was with me the night I was sexually abused when I was 16. After feeling so much hatred towards myself, he comforted me even when I didn't know him. He was with me when I flipped my car after a night of partying and having drugs in my system. He was with me when I survived that tragedy, knowing now he wasn't ready for me to go. He was with me when I tried to unalive myself for becoming pregnant after a second time and having no self-worth in me to feel I was worthy enough to have any babies in my stomach. Mm-hmm. He was with me in the mental hospital and nudged me many times, watching others around me in there in worse conditions, continually letting me know I was truly going to be okay. He was with me every day of the grieving of my 2 children and the hatred I felt towards myself day in and day out. I have been assured that in heaven I will get to rock my 2 babies I aborted in my arms because he has redeemed and forgiven me. He was with me the night when I got physically abused, and I remember plain as day his voice saying over and over, once I was safe, "It is finished." When I have these visions, he was always there, and I become more and more healed, reliving them, knowing that I am safe with him now. I am still grieving the woman I used to be in the most awesome way, because every time it all comes rushing back to me, I continually run into Jesus' arms, and he never fails to comfort me. I am saved, redeemed, and forgiven because he has forgiven me, and I am his daughter forever. I have truly passed on myself and have become a newfound creation that I will continue to seek more of myself into daily, being blessed for the breath of life, and can finally walk in his purpose for myself in his kingdom. It is for his glory.
Wow.
And I can't believe I read that without crying. But that's God.
Yeah.
Because at home, I've read this so many times and have cried every time I read it. But I can feel the Lord inside of me right now.
Yeah. I almost started crying. Man.
Yeah.
What kind of, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Like, when you were saying that when you were sexually assaulted when you were 16, what kind of like feelings did you have like up to when it happened?
I was entirely intoxicated. The person that did it to me was a lot older than me, and I was very intoxicated. He had just was trying to be a friend and kind of reeled me into that. And at that young of age, I really could not process in an adult manner at that young of an age. So I didn't know really what was going on. And so that's hard to really explain fully when you're that kind of out of it.
But afterwards, like after it happened, like the grief that came out, like the grief that you felt, did it happen fast, or did it happen like would days go by?
Oh no, it happened my whole life until 3 years ago when I started to heal. I've held on to that grief. All of this that I just read to you, I've held on to.
It's constant, yeah. Until you rededicated yourself.
Yeah, with my abortions, I used to be afraid of children. Like in the salon, I'd be fearful of them. And then there's times where I would be jealous of every woman in the salon would have a child but me, and then I'd start to compare myself to them and not feel good enough. There's just a lot of different things that I've like had to work through as far as a lot of that emotional stuff with grieving. Yeah, grieving my old self, getting through the pain of all that. Yeah.
Well, you're such an overcomer. I know I call you that all the time, but I just remember like in the salon how many kids cuts you did, like even back then. So you must have just been fighting a battle within yourself and within your own mind, and just like you have got to be tired, or you.
Oh, I was.
You were tired,
exhausted. That when
because I couldn't imagine like feeling a fear of like seeing a child to approach you to get a haircut, and then you having to do that haircut and just feeling like
I pushed through. I wanted them to like me, and they ended up liking me.
You.
And naturally they just do now.
Yeah, they do.
And I just love them. Like I love children. So it's just like natural to me now to not. But there would be times I would have fear. like, and feel alone or lonely in a place where everyone else had a lot to talk about when it came to their child, and then I couldn't really speak up because I didn't have anything to compare or to talk about. But now I just don't feel that way. I don't feel that way anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just like in tune with the conversation and just act like I have children because
well, technically you do. I mean
I do. Yeah,
you can always say Sadie,
I have a lot of godchildren. And I'm an aunt and not biologically, but
well, I consider it biologically. Especially Sadie about scratched up your new car just trying to get into the car.
She ran to me.
She
That's
did.
the sweetest thing ever.
And it was precious that you picked her up.
I think she knew she was going to get a present though, for real.
She associates you with money, so and she loves money.
That day you told me about when you took her to the dentist and she was holding the $3.
Yes, it was so
girl,
cute.
that made me cry.
Like her comfort.
I called my mom and was crying to her about that. And
that
she
was like her comfort.
Yeah,
it's funny. Like
that's so sweet.
And she won't spend it. Like she doesn't understand the concept of like if you give that to somebody, then you can get something. Like she just loves money. It's like that's her present is money. Maybe that means she'll be a money saver.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. Well, I'm going to read one of my stories that's hard for me too.
Okay.
After losing my baby, I was overwhelmed with sadness, anger, and a deep sense of failure. I felt betrayed by God and questioned why he would allow such a loss, especially when my husband's faith had been unwavering. The question of why echoed in my mind, intensifying my grief. In my turmoil, I turned to my faith, finding a solid in Psalms 34:18, which reminded me that God is close to the brokenhearted. My husband and I, both grieving, found comfort in sharing our sorrows. My sister also supported me, offering prayers and a compassionate ear, helping me realize that faith and grief can coexist. Over time, I came to see that my anger and doubt were part of my journey, not a betrayal of my faith. I learned that God's love encompasses all our emotions, including our pain and confusion. My husband's unwavering faith became my strength, showing me that while faith doesn't shield us from suffering, it gives us the hope and resilience to endure it. The journey through grief and faith was difficult, but discovered that God's presence is with us even in our darkest moments. Though we may never fully understand why things happen, we can find peace in knowing we are held by a loving God. As we move forward, we carry the memory of Emma Ann and the lessons we've learned through our journey. And that, to me, is to help me with grief. It reminds me to embrace my faith. And I think the more you embrace your faith, I think the more it leads to trusting him. And I don't know, I know that we've said in the past, like, knowing him is fearing him. But sometimes I feel like we'll never fully know what God's purpose is for stuff.
I think we're not going to know until the end.
I mean, sometimes we know because, he reveals it to us, but sometimes it's like, is he trying to reveal it to us or is he not? It's
hard to say. There's so many questions. There is reasons for everything, so I think eventually you do.
Yeah.
Looking back, I found out a lot of those answers to those questions. So it might be that one day we will, but...
Yeah. Well, at first I thought that he had the baby die because for a relationship to get closer, and it did for a little while, and now the relationship is straining again. So it's kind of like I'm trying to understand like what the purpose of it would be. You know what I'm saying? Because why is the relationship straining if you had me lose a baby to get a relationship like closer?
So it's just still showing that you're actually still grieving. Because I grieved my 2 abortions for like 25 years. And now it's come to rest because it went up to heaven, and I know that I can rock them when I'm up there.
Yeah.
So, and he's forgiven me. So it's like the grieving like subsided for me. And finally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I learned that very thing that I just said with my therapist, and her and I cried together when we discovered it together in that very room.
Yeah.
And it was like a weight lifted off of me, and it was like the grieving finally went away.
Right.
And I don't have to worry about what anybody else is going to think about it anymore either. Like, I just don't.
Yeah.
It's not about anybody.
No, it's not. It's about you and what happened to you.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm proud that you're able to share your story, because that would be tough for a lot of people.
Yeah, I've had so much shame, worried about what other people are going to think about me. And I can't even believe I've gotten to this point where I can talk about it, because I've literally been forgiven.
Yeah. But what about the praise that, like, you're receiving in heaven because of the people that you're helping right now that feel like God will never want them because they've done something like that?
Yeah, and the shame that they may be dealing with behind the screen right now.
Yeah.
Like, you're not alone.
No, but I mean, I can tell you with, like, I'm always looking for, like, ways to, like, I feel like you sharing your story is definitely opening up doors, because I know the Rose House girls from CRCI, they watch, and a lot of them may be not feeling accepted because of this, and they feel like they have to hide behind it. And you're out here being so strong and brave and sharing stories.
This is what God's using me to do.
Yeah.
Because he's lifted off that burden from me, and I don't feel that weight anymore. I felt it for so long. All of these things that I've expressed in this very episode, the burden is gone.
Yeah.
Like, my book bag is way light, especially right now after reading this. The journey is lighter. God's like in love right now. He's like ready to let's go even further.
Yeah. Well, as far as this, like, I can tell you I'm not grieving anymore for the baby. I'm just trying to find like more of, like, the purpose in it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And now sharing it, what stopped my grief and what made me realize is that, this sounds so crazy, but so Sadie was playing on the floor one day, and she was staring off, like staring beside her. I'm saying off because there's nobody in front of her, but she was really communicating, and as she got older, she would still communicate and talk in her little baby language, and it was like there was somebody on the floor with her.
Aww.
Yeah. And I went to church, and Pastor Chase was like, this baby can see angels. And when he said that, like, I got emotional, and I was trying to hold myself together. But when he said that, I was like, she's playing with, like, Sadie Jane is playing with Emma Ann. Like,
oh.
And that was kind of my thing. Like, I want to keep her memory alive, because that's, you know, my kid's sister. And I want to keep the memory alive, because I want others to know, like, hey, if you're going through this, you can get through it.
Yeah.
And there's a purpose. There's a reason why God has things like this happen. And I mean, it goes back to, like, I know it's a free choice. What is it called?
Free will.
Free will. I know that there's stuff like that, but I mean, accidents happen. People die every day, and people get into accidents all of a sudden, like emergency accidents and stuff like that happen. So I mean,
isn't it wild how free will is the way that it is, but God already knows that we're going to choose what we choose in our will,
because he knows us.
Yeah. So, like, he knew that I was going to.
Yeah. I know, it's so weird, isn't it, to even grasp that.
Right. So now when we get to heaven, we get to rock.
Our babies are playing together right now.
Yeah.
They're they're probably proud of us.
Yeah.
It's so precious.
Right.
It really is. And I'm just now I'm wondering if yours were boys or girls.
I don't know.
That would be kind of crazy if it was all girls. Now it makes me want to go to heaven to see.
Aww. We'll
But,
know. We'll
yeah.
know eventually.
Yeah, we will. All right, coping strategies and faith-based support systems. This is very important because you don't want to isolate yourself or close off from things. Church groups are important, faith-based counseling, community, resources that can provide support, which is Celebrate Recovery. That 12 steps will help. Anything that you're grieving or anything that you're feeling, it's hurts, habits, and hangups. So any of that. And sometimes our grief can cause us to be angry and have an attitude and be standoffish to people and create other things. It's like a snowball effect. So that's important to handle that. And then balancing faith and grief. Acknowledge your emotions. Communicate openly. Seek support. Explore your faith. Allow yourself grace, which is very important. And we're learning that every day. Moving forward with faith, finding meaning and purpose. Faith can offer comfort and a sense of purpose after a loss by providing a framework for understanding the meaning of suffering and loss. It can foster hope and resilience, encourage individuals to connect with a supportive community, and inspire a renewed sense of purpose through spiritual beliefs and practices. Do you want to read the hope and healing?
Faith provides hope for the future by offering a belief in a higher purpose or a benevolent plan, which can reassure individuals that their struggles are part of a larger, meaningful journey. This sense of hope can foster resilience and openness to healing, as faith often encourages trust in the possibility of renewal and positive change despite current difficulties.
I want to go ahead and pray before we close. Lord, we know that you are close to the brokenhearted and that you understand the depths of our pain. Please hold us in your gentle embrace and soothe our troubled spirits. Grant us the solace we need as we navigate through this difficult time. Help us to find moments of calm in the storm of our emotions. Give us the strength to face each day, even when the sadness feels unbearable. Restore our hope and remind us of your promises and comfort and healing. In Jesus' name, amen. And we want to encourage all of you guys to seek out a faith-based support if you're struggling with grief, and find a Celebrate Recovery. I truly believe that works. Bye, guys.
Bye.